4:10 in the morning. A phone rings in the darkness. A young woman's voice answers, groggy, apologetic. She overslept. But she's leaving now. She'll be there soon. It's the last time anyone hears Jodi Huisentruit's voice. Minutes later, in the empty parking lot of her apartment complex, something terrible happens. High heels scattered across the pavement. A hairdryer lying on the ground. A car key, bent and twisted. Drag marks leading away into the darkness. And Jodi Huisentruit, the beloved news anchor of Mason City, Iowa, vanishes without a trace. This is the disturbing story of a woman whose last free moments were spent in the darkness of an ordinary morning, and of a mystery that has haunted an entire city for 30 years. What really happened in that parking lot? What do you think occurred in those critical minutes? Leave your theory in the comments. Jodi Huisentruit was 27 years old in the summer of 1995. She had the kind of smile that lit up a television screen, the kind of presence that made viewers feel like she was talking directly to them. Born in Long Prairie, Minnesota, Jodi had always been charismatic, popular, driven. In high school, she was a cheerleader. In college at St. Cloud State University, she studied mass communications, already knowing exactly where her future lay. By 1993, she'd landed her dream job as a news anchor at KIMP TV, the CBS affiliate in Mason City, Iowa. It was a small market, a quiet city of about 30,000 people, but Jodi didn't see it as a stepping stone. She saw it as home. She became deeply involved in the community, volunteering, attending local events, making genuine connections with the people who watched her every morning. And they did watch her. Every single morning. Jodi anchored the daybreak program, which meant her alarm went off at 3 in the morning, 6 days a week. Most people were still deep in their dreams when Jodi was already awake, getting ready, driving through empty streets to the studio. It was exhausting, sure, but Jodi never complained. This was what she loved. Her routine was clockwork. Wake up at 3, quick shower, hair, makeup, grab her things, drive the short distance from her apartment on Kentucky Avenue to the KIMT studio on North Federal Avenue. Be in the building by 3:50 at the latest. The show went live at 6. In June of 1995, Jodi's life seemed perfect. She'd just celebrated her 27th birthday. She was playing in a local golf tournament. She'd recently bought herself a treat, a used Mazda Miata, bright red, a convertible. It was fun, sporty, exactly the kind of car a young woman enjoying her success would drive. On the evening of June 26th, Jodi attended a birthday party. It was at the home of John Vancis, a 65-year-old man who had become an unexpected friend. He was much older, a local businessman, but he'd taken Jodi under his wing. He called her his quote-unquote daughter. Some people thought it was sweet. Others thought it was strange. That night, they played cards, had a few drinks, celebrated. Jodi left around 10:30, maybe 11. She had to work in the morning, after all. She drove home to the Key Apartments on Kentucky Avenue. She parked her red Miata in her assigned spot. She went upstairs to her apartment. She set her alarm, and she went to bed. Everything was normal. Everything was fine. In just a few hours, nothing would ever be normal again. June 27th, 1995, 3:50 in the morning. Amy Kunz, the producer for Daybreak, is already at the KIMT studio. She's preparing for the show, organizing scripts, checking equipment. But something's wrong. Jodi isn't there. Jodi is always there by 3:50. She's never late. Not once in the 2 years Amy has worked with her. Amy waits. Maybe Jodi hit traffic. Maybe she had car trouble. But Mason City at 4 in the morning doesn't have traffic. And Jodi's apartment is only a few minutes away. For 10 arrives. Amy picks up the phone and dials Jodi's number. The phone rings. Once, twice, then a voice, thick with sleep. Jodi answers. She sounds disoriented, confused. She says she overslept. She's so sorry. But she's getting up right now. She's leaving. She'll be there as fast as she can. Amy feels relief wash over her. Okay. Jodi overslept. It happens to everyone, right? It's unusual for Jodi, But it's not a disaster. She'll be there in 10, 15 minutes tops. They can still make the show work. Amy hangs up. She waits. For 30 passes. 4:45. 5 o'clock. Still no Jodi. This isn't like her. Even if she overslept, even if she was rushing, she should be here by now. Amy tries calling again. No answer. She calls again. Nothing. The phone just rings and rings. 6 in the morning, the show goes live. Amy makes the decision to fill in for Jodi on camera. She tells herself there's a reasonable explanation. Maybe Jodi's car broke down. Maybe her phone line is out. Maybe she'll walk through the door any second with an embarrassed smile and a story to tell. But Jodi doesn't walk through the door. 7:13 in the morning. More than 3 hours since that phone call. The newsroom contacts the Mason City Police Department. Something is wrong. Something is very wrong. Officers are dispatched to Jodi's apartment at the Key Apartments on Kentucky Avenue. It's a quiet complex, nothing fancy, the kind of place a young professional would rent. When they arrive, they immediately spot Jodi's red Mazda Miata in the parking lot, right where it should be. But Jodi is nowhere to be seen. What do you think happened in those critical hours between 4:10 and 7:13? What could have prevented Jodi from making that short drive to work? Share your thoughts below, because what the police found next changes everything. The scene in the parking lot tells a story. Terrible story. Jodi's red Miata sits in her assigned parking space, number 25. The driver's side door is unlocked, and scattered around the car across the asphalt is evidence of something violent. A pair of women's red high-heeled shoes, not neatly placed, scattered. One here, one several feet away. A hair dryer, a bottle of hairspray, pair of earrings, and the car key. Jodi's car key, bent at an unnatural angle, as if someone had gripped it with tremendous force. The police officers stand there, taking it all in. These aren't the belongings of someone who simply decided not to go to work. These are the belongings of someone who was interrupted. Someone who was in the process of getting into her car when something stopped her. They examine the pavement more closely. Drag marks, faint but unmistakable, leading away from the Miata toward the edge of the parking lot. Someone was dragged. Someone fought back. On the car itself, investigators find an unidentified palm print. Not Jodi's. Someone else's hand was on her car that morning. The apartment complex has around 24 units. The police begin knocking on doors, waking people up, asking if anyone saw or heard anything unusual around 4:30 that morning. Most people were asleep, but 2 witnesses come forward with chilling information. They heard a scream, a woman's scream, around 4:30 in the morning, maybe 4:20, somewhere in that window of time. It was brief, sharp, then silence. But it was the middle of the night in a quiet apartment complex. People hear strange sounds sometimes. Neither witness thought enough of it to call the police or even get out of bed to look. Another witness mentions seeing a white van in the parking lot around that time. A Ford Econoline, older model. It wasn't a vehicle anyone recognized as belonging to the complex. But again, people see vehicles. It didn't seem significant until now. The timeline becomes clearer and more horrifying. Jodi answered the phone at 4:10, groggy but alive. She said she was leaving immediately. Given the short distance to the studio, she would have gone straight to her car. That means she was in that parking lot, trying to get into her Miata, sometime between 4:15 and 4:30. And that's when it happened. Someone was waiting, or someone approached. There was a confrontation, a struggle. Jodi fought. The key bent in her hand. Her shoes came off. Her belongings scattered. She screamed. And then she was gone. Dragged away. Taken. Vanished into the Iowa darkness. The Mason City Police Department immediately launches a missing person investigation. But within hours, everyone knows this isn't a case of someone who wandered off or decided to take an impromptu trip. This is an abduction. This is a crime scene. And somewhere out there, Jodi Huisentruit is either being held against her will or is already dead. Thank you for staying with us this far. I know this is difficult to hear, but what comes next will shock you even more. The investigation is about to uncover multiple persons of interest, each with their own disturbing connections to Jodi's disappearance. In the days and weeks following Jodi's disappearance, investigators work around the clock. They interview everyone who knew her. They search fields, rivers, abandoned buildings. They follow up on hundreds of tips. And gradually, certain names begin to surface. People who had connections to Jodi. People whose behavior raises questions. The first name is John Vancis. John Vancis was 65 years old, nearly 40 years older than Jodi. He was the last person known to have seen her before she went home that night. Jodi had been at his house for the birthday party, leaving around 10:30 or 11. Vancis told police that Jodi seemed fine when she left, maybe a little tired, but fine. Nothing unusual. But investigators soon learned that Vancis's relationship with Jodi was complicated. He called her his daughter, but they weren't related. He was close to her, maybe too close for some people's comfort. He bought her gifts. He gave her advice. He was possessive of her time. Some of Jodi's friends thought the relationship was inappropriate, though Jodi herself seemed to view him as a mentor, a father figure. Here's where it gets stranger. On the morning of June 27th, around 8 in the morning, hours after Jodi failed to show up for work, John Vancis drove to the KIMT studio. He told people he was worried about Jodi. But the question becomes, how did he know to be worried? At that point, the police hadn't publicly announced anything. Had someone from the station called him? Or did he know something he wasn't saying? For years, John Vancis remained a person of interest. In 2017, more than 20 years after Jodi's disappearance, police obtained permission to place a GPS tracker on Vancis's vehicle. They wanted to see where he went, whether he would visit any location that might be significant to the case. They tracked him for months, but nothing concrete emerged. John Vancis always maintained his innocence. He cooperated with police, gave DNA samples, sat for interviews. He said he had nothing to do with Jodi's disappearance, that he loved her like a daughter and would never harm her. In 2024, John Vancis died. He was never charged. He never confessed. And if he knew what happened to Jodi Huisentruit, he took that knowledge to his grave. But John Vancis isn't the only person of interest. Enter Tony Jackson, a convicted rapist who was living in Mason City in 1995. Not just living there, living 2 blocks away from the KIMT studio, 2 blocks from where Jodi worked every single morning. Tony Jackson had a history of violent sexual assaults. In 2011, he was arrested for kidnapping and sexually assaulting multiple women in Minnesota. The details of his crimes are disturbing. He would approach women, force them into his vehicle, assault them, then release them. During the investigation into those crimes, Jackson's former cellmate came forward with a shocking claim. The cellmate told police that Tony Jackson had made statements about Jodi Huisentruit. According to the cellmate, Jackson said he knew where Jodi was buried, near a silo, in or around Tiffin, Iowa. Police took this tip seriously. They searched areas around Tiffin. They brought in cadaver dogs, ground-penetrating radar, every tool they had. But they found nothing. No body, no evidence. Just another dead end in a case full of them. Tony Jackson denied any involvement in Jodi's disappearance. He's currently serving time for his other crimes, but he's never been charged in connection with Jodi. Did a serial rapist who lived 2 blocks from her workplace abduct and murder Jodi Huisentruit? It's possible, but without evidence it remains a theory. Then there's Brad Millerburn. Brad was married to Jodi's best friend from high school. They'd known each other for years, were part of the same social circle. But according to investigators, Brad matched certain undisclosed details in the suspect profile. What those details are, the police have never publicly revealed. But it was enough for him to be named as a person of interest. Brad has denied any involvement. Like Vancis and Jackson, he's never been charged. And now, in 2024, investigators revealed something new. Something they'd kept quiet for nearly 30 years. Jodi had started dating someone, a new boyfriend. They'd been seeing each other for only about 10 days before she disappeared. They talked on the phone every day. He was someone she was excited about, someone who represented a new chapter in her life. Who was this man? Why did investigators keep his identity secret for so long? And does he know something about what happened that morning? The police have been tight-lipped about this new boyfriend's identity. They've said he's been cooperative, but they've also said he remains someone they're interested in speaking with further. Most recently, in November of 2025, just last month, the Mason City Police Department returned to Winstead, Minnesota. That's Jodi's hometown, where she grew up. They conducted searches in wooded areas. They brought in equipment. They clearly believed there was a reason to look there. But once again, they found nothing they could announce publicly. The investigation is active. It's ongoing. And after 30 years, it remains unsolved. On October 2nd, 2001, 6 years after she vanished, Jodi Huisentruit was declared legally dead. Her family held a memorial service. They said goodbye to a daughter, a sister, a friend they would never see again. But they didn't have a body to bury. They didn't have closure. They didn't have answers. And today, in December of 2025, they still don't. The Mason City Police Department has never closed Jodi's case. They maintain that they have a suspect in mind. The lead detective has said publicly that he believes he knows who's responsible. But he needs that one final piece of evidence. That one tip that will turn suspicion into proof. Belief into conviction. In July of 2025, a new documentary was released on Hulu. It's called Her Last Broadcast. It re-examines Jodi's case, interviews the investigators, the journalists who covered the story, the people who knew her. It brings Jodi's face back into the public eye, reminds a new generation that this case is still unsolved, that someone out there knows what happened. Jodi's family continues to speak out. Her sister has said, quote, "The pain felt by us and all who love Jodi is immeasurable. They want justice. They want to know where Jodi is. They want to bring her home. But 30 years have passed. Witnesses have died, including John Vancis. Memories have faded. Evidence has grown cold. And yet, the case persists. Tips still come in. Investigators still follow leads. The hope remains that one day someone will talk. Someone will confess. Someone will come forward with the information that breaks this case wide open. So what do we know for certain? We know that on the morning of June 27, 1995, Jodi Huisentruit woke up in her apartment. We know she answered a phone call at 4:10 saying she was about to leave for work. We know that minutes later, she was in her parking lot, trying to get into her car. We know there was a struggle. We know she screamed. And we know she was taken. What we don't know is who. We don't know why. We don't know where Jodi's body is. We don't know if the person responsible is someone whose name we've heard, or someone who's never been on the radar at all. Was it John Vancis, the older man who called her his daughter? Did his affection turn obsessive, possessive, dangerous? Did he follow her home that night and wait for her in the darkness? Was it Tony Jackson, the serial rapist who lived 2 blocks from her work? Did he watch her morning routine, learn her schedule, wait for his opportunity? Was it the new boyfriend, the man she'd only been dating for 10 days? Did something go wrong? Did she want to end things? Did he not take it well? Or was it someone else entirely? A stranger? Someone who saw a beautiful young woman getting into a car alone in a dark parking lot and made a split-second decision that would destroy countless lives? The truth is still out there, somewhere, in someone's memory, in someone's conscience, in some piece of evidence that hasn't been connected to the right person yet. What happened to Jodi Huisentruit that dark morning in June? What do you think? Who do you believe is responsible? Share your theory in the comments below. Maybe your perspective, your insight, is the piece that helps investigators finally solve this case. If you found this case as haunting as we did, make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell so you never miss another deep dive into the mysteries that continue to puzzle us. We cover unsolved cases, strange disappearances, and the stories that refuse to let us look away. And before you go, check out our next recommended video where we explore another chilling disappearance that will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew. Thank you for watching. Stay curious, stay safe, and remember, somewhere out there, someone knows what happened to Jodi Huisentruit. 30 years is long enough. It's time for the truth to come out.